Well, thank you so much. And it's great to be on such a distinguished panel with President Guaido, Vanessa and Delsa, longtime collaborator Bill Browder, and friend and mentor Erwin Cutler. And of course, Orlando, thanks for hosting this also. I am actually very pleased to be with you all here today in my new capacity, where I'm giving my first public remarks as the special advisor on the responsibility to protect the Organization of American States. I was honored to be appointed to this position by Secretary General Luis Almagro, and I will speak briefly about my mandate and then more specifically about the kind of work I will be undertaking in that context on the situation in Venezuela specifically. It's worth observing at the outset that my appointment to this position is in fact historic. I'm now the first special advisor on R2P for any regional organization in the world. Though to be clear, other regional organizations such as the African Union, ECOWAS, and OSCE have begun discussing and or applying R2P in practice. Yet, although R2P was adopted by the UN in 2005, all four of the UN special advisors on R2P, going back to Ed Luck at the beginning, have spoken about the importance of R2P being taken up by regional organizations. So, for example, the current UN special advisor on R2P, Karen Smith, said in August 2020, quote, "It is important to emphasize the vital role that regional responses, including those centered around regional and sub-regional organizations, can play in preventing and responding to atrocity crimes. These should not necessarily be seen as supplanting global efforts, but the advantages, including that regional organizations are often better placed to take early action, are well known and should be encouraged." As noted in the press release announcing my appointment, the OAS itself cannot remain silent and become another international bystander to past and ongoing mass atrocities. And if existing international mechanisms are not responding to the demands and needs of victims on mass atrocities in the Americas, at the very least, the OAS should try to design and build a regional mechanism that can prevent and respond more efficiently and in a timely manner to crimes of this nature in the Western Hemisphere. When working through what kinds of actions that might be undertaken by the OAS and its various organizations and entities as part of a potential new regional R2P system, it will be critical for me to engage in a wide array of consultations. My work as the special advisor will begin with my analyzing, studying, and discussing how to develop a mechanism for the OAS to prevent and respond to mass atrocity crimes in the region with all interested parties, and as a consequence, formulating suggested possible courses of action by the organization. In the coming weeks, I'll be seeking individual consultations with all OAS member states, focal points on R2P from OAS member states, and all relevant international organizations, civil society groups, think tanks, and other experts, some of whom are, of course, on this call today. Now let me turn to the specific situation of Venezuela. It's been widely documented by international organizations and civil society groups that crimes against humanity are being committed by the Maduro regime against the people of Venezuela. Importantly, in relation to my new role, this conclusion was already reached specifically by the OAS commissioned panel of international independent experts who published their excellent report in 2018. And it's great to see Erwin Cutler, who of course was one of the commissioners of the report, on the call today. In light of the panel's conclusions and by the plain language of paragraphs 138 to 140 of the 2005 World Summit Outcome document, and as indeed Delsa talked about much more extensively, it's clear the Maduro regime has failed in its responsibility to protect its populations from mass atrocity crimes, as it has been the author of crimes against humanity, including those specific crimes of murder, torture, imprisonment, enforced disappearance, rape and sexual violence, persecution, and other inhumane acts inflicting great suffering or death. But having established that R2P applies to the situation in Venezuela, however, the most important question is what next? Under paragraph 138, it says that the international community should, as appropriate, encourage and help states to exercise this responsibility. And under paragraph 139, the international community has a responsibility to use appropriate means through the UN to help protect populations suffering from mass atrocity crimes. In my view, the OAS has an important role to play in encouraging, supporting, and facilitating actions under these two possible approaches to addressing mass atrocity crimes in Venezuela. In fact, prior to being appointed special advisor, I had previously been commissioned by the Secretary General to complete an update to the 2018 OAS panel report. This report is in fact already complete, and I expect to launch the report in November. That report will reaffirm in enormous detail not only the scale and the scope of the crimes being committed by the Maduro regime, but also how they qualify as crimes against humanity. And the report will make specific recommendations about how to achieve justice and accountability for these crimes. At the same time, however, there is also an urgent need to help protect the people of Venezuela from the ongoing mass atrocity crimes that they are suffering. At this early stage of my work, and prior to my having engaged in wide consultations, I'm not in a position to provide specific details of what I will propose next. But what I can say is that I understand and appreciate the urgency, and that I'll work as quickly as I can to understand the wide array of views that I'll be presented with, and will propose further action that draws on the strengths of the OAS and is consistent with the obligation of all states under R2P. Let me just conclude with the words of Secretary General Luis Almagro, who has been unequivocal in his advocacy to address the crisis in Venezuela. He recently said, quote, "Going back to our founding, the OAS has sought to secure peace, justice, and human rights for the people of the Americas. Yet over time, there has been mass atrocities committed in far too many countries by repressive and undemocratic regimes. One need no further to look no further than the crimes against humanity being committed today," and he's of course spoken about Venezuela in detail, "which come from a deliberate, methodical, and systematic strategy to understand the consequences of our failure to act together. I look forward to helping establish a regional R2P system for the OAS in the Americas, and of course to assisting and creating even greater energy and actions to apply R2P to the situation in Venezuela specifically." Thanks so much.